Hey everybody! The purpose of this video is to walk you through the prerequisite quiz in Math 105, little review quiz, making sure that we have a few tools in the toolbox ready to go. And so here we go. Let's check them out. First one here, 2-point question. Write the value of the fraction 3/8 as a decimal rounded to the nearest hundredths place. I don't know exactly how you did this. One way you could do it is simply use Google. For those of you who aren't familiar, you can open a Google window anytime you want, and in any Google search bar, you can simply type a fraction like 3/8 and press enter, and it'll actually convert the fraction to a decimal for you, 0.375, which then you can convert to 0.38, which would be the hundredths place answer for that one. Another way you can do it, of course, is to use your TI. That'll work just fine as well. You could also do it longhand if you wanted to, but any way you do it, it's going to be 0.38 rounded to the nearest hundredths. Hundredths is going to be 2 decimals, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. 0.375 would be thousandth place, but we're looking for hundredths. So there's your first 2-point question there. This next one here, let's see if I can make it a little bit bigger. It says use the graph for the next 2 questions. Now, you don't have to use a graph to solve these, but I wanted you to because I want you to be able to be good graph readers. So the first one says solve the equation 4 equals x plus 8 over 3. Okay, now you might notice that the blue line equation is y equals x plus 8 over 3. The green line's equation is y equals -2 times the quantity x plus 1. So notice the blue line equation, y equals x plus 8 over 3. And this equation down here, 4 equals x plus 8 over 3, are real similar. In both of them, the right-hand side is exactly the same. And the only thing making them different is the fact that in this the general equation up here, the left-hand side is y, and this one, the left-hand side is a very specific 4. And that's the key. You want y to equal 4 on this line. So where does y equal 4 on this line? Well, you have to find that out. That's where you use the actual graph to find it out. Y equals 4. 4 traces over here, lands right there, and where y equals 4, so does x. So you can either write 4, or I'll be a little more specific and I'll put x equals 4. And that's the solution to the equation. Please notice you could have also gotten that solution by multiplying both sides of this equation by 3. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 equals x plus 8, and then subtracting 8 from 12 gets you 4. But I wasn't after that. I was after getting you guys to use the actual graph of the 2 equations, in this case just 1. Similarly, for this 3-point question, it says solve the system y equals x plus 8 over 3, which is this guy right here, and y equals -2 times the quantity x plus 1, which is this guy right here. Well, we're going to use the exact same logic that we did up here. But what this is saying is we need both of these things to be true at the exact same time. Now up here, we needed this equation to be true, which meant we had to let y equal 4. The challenge down here is y can be anything in either of these. But we need, in order for the system to be true, y to be the same thing in both. So if you pick any random point on the line, say for example right here, you picked x equals 4. Well, y also equals 4 over here on this line. But the problem with that is when y equals 4 on this line, x equals -3. Because not only do the y's have to be the same, but the x's have to be the same too. So on this one, when x equals 4, y equals 4. With this one, when x equals -3, y equals 4. So that doesn't work. You might say, okay, well, let's try -3. How about -3? Well, when x equals -3, y equals 4 on the green line, but when x equals -3, y looks like it equals like maybe 1 2/3 on the blue line. So you see, we're having some problems here. We're kind of guessing at x value. Suppose x is 0. Well, when x is 0 on the green line, y is -2. And when x is 0 on the blue line, it's 2 2/3. So there's ways we can guess at this all day long. But again, you can solve this algebraically, or you can just say, all right, is there any point or points on the graph such that the x and y values are exactly the same? and hopefully you remember this now from your previous math classes, it's got to be at the point of intersection. At the point of intersection, both equations share an x value and a y value, which means since they're sharing the x and y values, that means that those x and y values have to satisfy both equations, which means I think we just found our solution. Our solution is -2, 2. That's one way of writing it. Oh, where did I just write that? Interesting. It feels like I'm typing, but it's not showing up anywhere. Let's try it here. Here we go. -2, 2. There's your solution to that particular system of equations. You could also write x equals -2, y equals 2. I'm totally fine with that as well. But, oh, it showed up down here. Look at that. Unbelievable. So anyway, hopefully you remember that from your previous algebra classes, the idea of a system. We're going to use both of these pretty religiously in the first couple weeks of Math 105. So if that's not coming back to you like that, it will pretty quickly. All right. And the last question is solving a quadratic. So I'm going to pop back up. And I'm just realizing now that this quiz is only out of 9 points. Yay, I gifted you guys a point. I'm going to erase all of this just to give us some room. So it's saying solve this equation using any method you like. And I gave you 3. Quadratic formula, completing the square, and graphing. I'm not going to do the graphing one because the graphing one would be just like what we just did. And that's fine. But what I want to do is I want to do completing the square. Quadratic formula, I've never been a huge fan of it. It seems kind of onerous. It's an onerous way of dealing with this kind of stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do completing the square on this guy. So I'm going to take out all of this. Okay, so here's your equation. The first thing you want to do with this equation is you want to rewrite it so that you've got all the variables on one side and the constants on the other. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to copy and paste it. Then I'm going to move some stuff. I'm going to subtract the 1 from both sides, making this over here a -1. And then I'm going to move this guy over to this side, making it a -3x. So far, so good. I'm also going to make that red. And we're going to copy it again, I think, to get ourselves a nice red. Yeah, okay, good. So far, so good. What we did was we moved the equation over. Let me make that minus sign bigger so it's more obvious too. All right, and I'm also going to make it a little bit larger for those of you guys playing the home game. There we go. Now, this is the completing the square step, and if you're interested in why this works, I encourage you to stop me after class, and I'd be happy to share it with you. What you want to do is you want to take this number, the coefficient on x. It's -3. What you want to do is you want to take that and then square it and then divide it by 2. And that might seem like kind of a strange thing to do, but you're about to see why it'll work. So you're going to take that number, -3. You're going to square it to get 9, and then you're going to divide it by 2 to get 4.5. And then what you're going to do, and I'm going to write that a slight bit differently. I'm going to write it as... Oh, excuse me, time out. I did that in the wrong order. It's been a while since I did this. You're going to take that number, cut it in half, and then square it. Okay, so you take 3, divide it by 2, 1.5, and then square that. So you get 2.25, and you're going to add 2.25 to both sides. Oops, I'm going to take... it can be bold, but it shouldn't be italicized. And I'm going to add 2.25 to both sides. And like I just said, if you're interested in why this works, I'd be more than happy to sit down and explain it to you. But you're about to see why it works next. I am going to insert one more step because although I cannot combine anything on this side, I can add 2.25 to -1, make this 1.25. There. 1.25. Okay, so now the reason you just did that, the whole point of doing that is now on this side, this whole expression that's right here on the left side is now factorable. Watch this. This is pretty slick, actually. I'm going to try to... This is going to be x minus... Actually, I can borrow that minus sign, can't I? Cut this out of here. X minus 1.5 squared. Now, if you take a look at that, how could that possibly be? Well, if you were to FOIL this, it would be x times x, which is x squared, x times negative 1.5, and then another x times negative 1.5, which would be negative 3 x's. And then 1.5 times 1.5 is 2.25. So essentially what you did was you figured out what number to use to get to be right here so that this whole thing up here factored. Now, one thing left to do is take the square root of both sides. And when you do that, you're going to end up with x minus 1.5 on this side equals, and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to insert a symbol, the plus or minus symbol. Where is that? I think it's under the symbol menu. Let me find it real quick. Should be in here. Yep, there it is. Close. Plus or minus. Now this is going to look a little weird, I think. I'm going to type an equation backslash radical 1.25. There we go. Oops, I did that wrong. Maybe this has to be a forward slash. It's been a while since I used these. That's better. Okay, so now we take the square root of both sides. Square root of x minus 1.5 squared is just x minus 1.5. Make sure you don't forget your plus or minus. And then last but not least, you add the 1.5 to the other side, and you end up with, boom, 1.5 plus or minus the square root of 1.25. And you can give that to me as decimals if you want. That's totally fine. But that's the main procedure for getting your two solutions via completing the square. Like I said, if you want to do a quadratic formula, that's fine. If you want to do it via graphing, that's fine. I like completing the square. I don't do it very often anymore, which is why I screwed up that step in the middle here. But there's a solution to your quiz questions. So I hope it was helpful. See you in class.